Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today we are here to talk about my favorites basket from the first half of 2026. I'm so excited to revisit these books. I did not put them in any kind of order, not in the order of what I read them or in the order of how favorite they are, to, like least to most favorite. They're just in the basket. And so we're going to go over the basket at the end of the year. This is going to be the first place I look, plus whatever I add to it later in the year. This is going to be the first stack of books I look at to choose my favorite books of the year. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of look at what were some of my favorites so far in 2026. 3 of them I just talked about in my June TBR, so I'm not going to spend too much time with them. But we have Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This is an epic Wild Wild West story where we follow 2 Texas Rangers and their group of cowboys as they travel from Texas up to Montana. Really enjoyed that. I have a nonfiction in the pile, The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore, about a woman who gets a little too opinionated and her husband gets her put in an asylum. Fascinating story. And then I have this short story from Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings, The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince. Definitely fairy tale vibes, and it gives me backstory on one of the characters that's going to be a major part of the next trilogy that I need to read. I really, really enjoyed that story. And then I have 2 kind of on the edge here. So let's do, oh yeah. This is going to be fun to look at these books again. The Long March Home by Marcus Brotherton and Tosca Lee is a World War II story set in the Philippines, and we follow the Bataan Death March, and we follow a group of 3 men, young men, who are really, really good friends, and they all join up to be soldiers together, and we follow the story of their lives and experiences as they are in the Philippines during World War II. Fascinating, really difficult to read at times as they experience torture and just a lot of hardship along the way. Really, really good though. Oh, very emotional. Another very emotional read was The Quiet Librarian by Alan Eskins. This is set around the Bosnian War in the 1990s, which is a war that I lived through, remember talking about a lot in school, and I had a roommate who's from Bosnia who experienced a lot of these things firsthand. But in this one, we follow kind of an unassuming librarian named Hannah, and then we learn that her life is maybe not as unassuming as she would like everybody to think. Alan Eskins goes there. It gets a little gritty, a little dark, and Hannah's story surprised me time and time again. Absolutely loved The Quiet Librarian. Next up, I have Every Hour Till Then. This is book 5 in the Timeless series. I've really enjoyed all of the books that I've read in this series so far, and so it just stands out as one of the favorite series that I've been reading this year. This one was kind of cool because our main character, who lives in 2 different timelines simultaneously until her 25th birthday, when she has to decide which timeline she's going to stay in. But one of the timelines is Victorian London. Think Jack the Ripper. That's a big part of that timeline. And then also World War II in Washington, D.C. And she works for the Smithsonian. So super cool. Both timelines were very interesting. I just love this series so much. This is a Christian fiction series. And one of the things I absolutely love about, and I will keep talking about, is that it just feels so realistic. The dialogue that our main characters have with people and also with God feel like questions that they should be asking, issues that they should be having, doubts that arise, feel very realistic if this were a true story, right? Obviously, time travel is not a thing, but it feels very real. And I really appreciate that about Gabriel Meyer's faith content in her books. Next, this was a good one. The Lies They Told by Ellen Marie Wiseman. It involves a lot of different things. We follow a family, a woman, her little brother and mother, I believe, who are coming from Ireland. Are they coming from Ireland? We follow Lena, who with her mother or grandmother. We follow Lena, who's a single mom, an immigrant coming from Germany with some other family members. And so we get that Ellis Island experience, and she's separated from 2 of her family members, and then they're actually deported back to Germany, and she is allowed into the United States. And then, so she takes up this job in the Appalachian Mountains with the guy, a distant relative. And we kind of learn about Blue Ridge Mountains. Not exactly, it is part of the Appalachian Mountains. But we learn about the beginnings of the Shenandoah National Park, which is close to me here in my state, here in Virginia. And how some people's children were taken away from them. People were put in insane asylums. Like, horrible things were happening to families because the government or this agency, I forget who it was, they wanted the land to make this national park. So it was very, very interesting to follow the lives of these mountain people and the struggles that they encountered. And also through the eyes of Lena and her daughter trying to make a way in the United States when they're not familiar with the language and the culture and everything. Like it just was so, so good. It was captivating. It was emotional. I absolutely love Ellen Marie Wiseman and I'm excited to read her to zero someday. Next up in the pile, I'm just going kind of from front to back here. I wish you could see the basket, but it's on my lap. Next up is The Outsiders. This was so fun to reread. This was a reread for me, but I'm putting it in the basket because it's been so long since I've read it. It's not like I just read it recently. I got to see the musical of The Outsiders and read this book right before going to see the musical. Fantastic story. And I love that it was a teenager who wrote it, and she was 16, I think, when she wrote this book. It's very much a gang. Young adult gangs, the Soches and the Greasers. The Soches are the popular, wealthy kids, and the Greasers are a little bit more rough around the edges and often come from more poverty situations. But we follow the struggles between these two groups who are always fighting and causing a ruckus, and the consequences of some of their actions. It was really, really good. Again, I loved it so much. There's a couple scenes towards the end that really get you. Whew. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Courtney Welsh's My Phony Valentine. This was just a delightful rom-com. It just made me really happy. I don't often find romances to be favorites of mine. I'm not sure this will get onto my top 10 list at the end of the year, but it's in the basket because it just gave me good vibes when I read it. We have a restaurant owner of a failing restaurant and a hockey player. We've got some fake dating in there, some of my favorite tropes. I just thought that this was a delightful, fun time. And Courtney Walsh writes sweet romances. There is no steamy scenes in here whatsoever. So it's just fun. But I love that I could still get the butterflies and like feel the tension between these two and the chemistry between them with just dialogue. I love that so much. So well done, Courtney Walsh, for hitting it out of the park with My Phony Valentine. The Love Haters by Catherine Center is another rom-com that I just really enjoy. Catherine Center also writes clean-ish. She might have one scene in her books. I'm pretty sure that this was totally steam-free. But we follow a journalist who gets assigned to write about this Coast Guard fella, but she can't swim. But she doesn't tell anyone that she can't swim. So she shows up and she's got to follow this Coast Guard guy around, who happens to be the brother of her work nemesis. And so she learns about their backstory and why are they kind of antagonistic towards each other. And of course, sparks fly between the two of them because it's a rom-com. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to reading more Catherine Center books as well. Jane Harper's last one out. Oh, I just love Jane Harper. For me, she is such a queen at atmosphere and building intensity through the setting and the atmosphere. And in this one, we're in a mining town in Australia that is kind of dying. We follow this couple who've been separated for a year because their son died. And they both deal with their grief so differently. But as much as it was a mystery about what actually happened to their son, it was also a story of their marriage and their relationship and is there hope for reconciliation. I really, really enjoyed this. I loved her character work. I loved the two main characters and I loved the mystery. It was kind of fun to try to figure out what actually did happen to the son. Who knows more than what they're talking about in the midst of this town where you can hear the mining stuff going on, where you could feel the heat, you could feel the desperation of these people who are sticking it out. I really enjoy Jane Harper's work, and this was not a disappointment whatsoever. Loved it. I have two books here that are epistolary. I love an epistolary novel. Very early on in the year, I read The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. In this one, we follow Sybil and just all the letters that she writes to people. So we learn about her relationships, her family, her backstory, her hard times, her grieving through the lens of all of these letters that she's writing to people. She's a little snarky. She's a little say whatever she wants to say kind of attitude, but also she's hurting. And so we see some of that hurt come out in her letters. I really loved the friendship between her and her best friend. I loved learning a lot more about Sybil as the story unfolded. And I love reading the letters. I just thought that this was such a cool format to tell Sybil's story. And I'm thrilled that I read it. And it's definitely a favorite of the year. And I read it right off the bat in January. Another novel in letters is Kate and Frida by Kim Fay. A couple years ago, I read Love and Saffron by her, and this is just as lovely. It's bookish, it's foodie. In this one, we're following pen pals. One of them is in Paris. Frida lives in Paris. She's an aspiring journalist who wants to be in war zone, is desperate to be there, but gets an assignment in Paris to start with. And then she writes letters to Kate, who's a bookseller in Seattle. And Kate feels like her life is a little more humdrum compared to all the things that Frida is experiencing, but they develop a really strong bond and a friendship between the two of them. They talk about food and the different things that they're eating and making, the drama in the bookstore with Kate, and then Frida and her experiences actually going into a war zone and what that was like for her, and also just her trying to be a journalist. So I really loved this one as well. Fantastic, heartwarming, hard-hitting at times, and told through the letters between these two friends. Really good. Okay, next up. I finally did it, y'all. I caved and read Remarkably Bright Creatures. I've been told for a couple of years now that I was going to love this book, and so part of me didn't want to read it because of that, but I did read it, and I did love it. Oh my word, I love Marcellus the octopus. Not being an animal person, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Marcellus, but I really loved the character of Marcellus and his snarkiness and the way that he sees the world, and he's just so smart. And then the way that he gets involved in the lives of the woman who cleans at the aquarium. It was charming, witty, delightful, heartwarming. I cried. Like, it just was all the things. I love Tova. I love her attention to detail and the way that she is surviving life in the midst of her grief, but then the way that she slowly opens up in a lot of ways because of Marcellus. Yeah, it just was a really lovely, lovely story. And the adaptation was fantastic as well. Next up, I have Emma M. Lyon. I didn't read volume 2 this year, and now I own 7 and 8. I think it was 7 and 8 that I read this year. I read up until 6 previous in 2025, but I'm putting Emma M. Lyon as a whole on the list because I've got caught up, and the new one's coming out, and I'm sure that will be a favorite as well. I just love, this is another epistolary. Should have included it with those ones. This is more journal entries, obviously, the unselected journals of Emma M. Lyon. And we get to know Emma and all of her shenanigans and the people in her life. And there's a group of men who are her core group of friends. There's 3 men and Emma. The 4 of them are really, really strong friends. And I love watching that friendship develop throughout the course of the series. I love that things that I thought in volume 6, I changed my mind about by the end of volume 8. I love that they all have a lot of humor and just kind of ridiculousness in them, but also, especially as the series gets on, there's a lot of depth and a lot of really difficult things that happen as well. I just really love this series a lot. But whenever there's a date coming up for book 9, I'm going to get started rereading this series because I just love it so much. And I listened to it on audio. The audio is fantastic, but now I own all 8 of them, and I want to go back and read them in print. Maybe even mark it up a little, maybe even annotate. Who am I? I just want to mark like the funny parts, maybe things that make me laugh out loud. That would be a fun thing to track. All right, 3 more. I have The Magpie Murders. This is Anthony Horowitz's first book in the Susan Ryland series. And it's totally a book within a book, which I thought was really cool because the book that's within this book has a mystery. And then there's a mystery overarching as well. And they kind of interact a little bit, which was really cool. Because I think the book within the book doesn't get finished. Because what happened to the author? But there are clues within the book. It was trippy. But I really, really enjoyed this one. It was really good. Fun mystery to read. Mrs. Quinn's Rise to Fame is another just feel-good story by Olivia Ford. Another one with an elderly main character, which you guys know I absolutely love. But Mrs. Quinn has been happily married to her husband, but she kind of one day on a whim applies to be on a baking show. Think Great British Bake Off, GBBO. There's a lot of vibes, a lot of similarities in the show that's set up in this book. She not only applies, but she gets out onto the show, but she doesn't tell her husband. She keeps it secret from him. I'm not sure why exactly. Well, we kind of learn why as the story goes on. She's been very honest with him all of her life, all of their married life together, except for about one other thing that does come up in this book as well. And so we learn about their marriage, the secret that she's been holding from him, along with her experience on this show and the people that she meets and the people that challenge her to step out of her comfort zone a little bit. And I just thought that this was a lovely story. I loved it. And then finally, I have Making Faces by Amy Harmon. It had been a while since I read an Amy Harmon. I forget how much I love her books. I really do. This one was kind of a Beauty and the Beast, modern day Beauty and the Beast, if you will. We have this young girl and boy who are originally know each other in high school. So we get a little bit of high school. She's kind of not the stereotypical beauty, and he is the star of everything, the star of the football team. Everybody loves him. He's super popular, but he goes off to fight in a war and comes back completely changed, physically and emotionally. And they did have a bit of she has had a crush on him forever. And they had a little bit of a friendship beforehand, but when he comes back from war, they have a really big impact on each other. And it's just all about beauty and what is beauty, and is beauty in the eye of the beholder? Is beauty more than skin deep? Like all of these things about beauty. But also it was super emotional. I just remember crying buckets. I was not prepared. I was not prepared to cry as much as I did in this book. It was fantastic. Fantastic. I just love Amy Harmon so much. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to lift these up. Yes. So here we go. These are all of my favorite books so far. I would love to hear if you've read any of these and what you thought about them. Are they on your favorites list as well? Are any of them getting added to your TBR? And or what is one of your favorite books that you've read so far this year that I need to make sure to read? I would love to hear that. Let's chat down in the comments below. I love chatting with you down there about these books or anything else that you want to talk about. And just put a heart in the comments if you've gotten to the end but you're not feeling chatty today. That's so fine. I love having you here, but I would love to know who's here. So go ahead and throw a heart of your favorite color into the comments because these are all books that I have loved so far this year. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes of your day to hang out with me today. I really appreciate you for watching and commenting and engaging with this video. I appreciate you all for being here so much. Best little corner of the internet for sure. And I look forward to chatting with you in another video very soon. Bye.